Welcome to all the Libra rising signs of the zodiac to your astrology for July 2025. I'm Cosmic Girl. Trust you're doing well, and thank you for being here. I'd just like to extend a thank you to all my listeners, my subscribers. Your support means oh so much, and it is not taken for granted. So I thought I'd take some time to say thank you. And if you're new here, you like my style of delivering the astrology for the month for your rising sign as a Libra, please consider subscribing. Hit on the bell and notification button for when I upload astrology videos. Okay. Now, July 2025 astrology. Interesting. We have 3 planets going into retrograde. Your chart ruler is shifting in the month of July. That's going to be super important for you as a Libra rising sign, which we'll get into. We're going to talk about the planets in transits, what natal houses these planetary transits are occurring in for you as a Libra rising sign, what it all means for you, and of course, the lunations. So before we get into that, we need to talk about your chart ruler Venus, where Venus has been transiting and what shift is coming towards her. And there's actually 2 quick movements this month of your chart ruler. So you open up the month of July with Venus finishing up her transit in Taurus, your natal 8th house, where the focus is going to be wound up, if you will, in regards to other people's finances, shared resources, death and inheritance. Those topics and subjects are coming to a resolution. There's a settling down there. And that would be, to some degree, for the Libra risings out there, a very fortuitous transit where you can end things with your chart ruler being in that natal house of death, inheritance, whether you're dealing with inheritance papers or the topics of inheritance has been brought up. Maybe that has been something that's been swimming around you for the Libra rising signs. And when we consider that natal 8th house of other people's resources, this is where you get the goods, you get the financial boost from shared resources in your life in any capacity or nature. So I sincerely hope that you have benefited well in regards to your finances, ending things that have been long in the tooth and feeling a lot better about your path moving forward with the more denser subjects in life. We talk money, policies, insurances with death and inheritance, life insurance and shared resources and blah, blah, blah. It's all very, but we have to deal with it. And you've been in the thick of it, but you're winding up that transit, opening up the month of July. And then your chart ruler Venus will then ingress into the natal 9th house. And this is a fantastic natal house for your chart ruler to be transiting through. We'll talk about that in depth in this video. And then towards the end of the month, your chart ruler then zips into your natal 10th house. So your chart ruler Venus is moving very fast. Very, very fast. So when we listen to planets in transits, then you know your chart ruler is moving very quickly. Then that puts you on notice as a Libra rising sign that you're executing well-laid plans quite organically. There's really not a lot stopping this freight train that you're beginning and whatever prize you have your eye on. It looks really quite positive for you with the astrology. Okay, so with that in your back pocket, opening up the month of July, your chart ruler Venus is still transiting in that natal 8th house, sorting out the official paperwork, the documents, the bank accounts, the policies, the procedures, what you need to do to move forward. So that is what's happening for the Libra rising signs. Now let's get into the astrology for the month of July. So Mars is still transiting in your natal 12th house of Virgo. So this is really good for anything financial, dealing with red tape behind the scenes. Very, very good for anything to do with taking time out, sabbaticals, medical procedures too. Mars in Virgo, planning for medical procedures or having them, and also bodes well for relationships in your life of any nature to get down to brass tacks, do what they have to do in isolation to get a job done. So you might have partners that are working away from you or partners that are very focused on self-improvement with this transit with Mars in your natal 12th house of Virgo for the whole month of July. Jupiter's still transiting in Cancer, your natal 10th house, right at the top of your chart on an angular part of your chart, no less. So this is quite significant, but Jupiter will be here until the 30th of June, 2026. So a really, really long transit. I have uploaded a separate video about Jupiter transiting Cancer for Libra rising signs on my YouTube channel. I encourage you to go back and listen to that. If you haven't done already, you'll get a wealth of astrological information about this transit in depth. So I'm not going to labor it here. Just a quick recap. When Jupiter's in your natal 10th house of Cancer, then you're emotionally driven towards satisfaction with your career, how you appear in the public, anything official, you want it done and dusted. And you also may experience with Jupiter in the natal 10th house of Cancer, competition in your professional arena. But there's nothing you can't handle. And we need an advocate that we can muscle up against, and that can be quite good. So Jupiter's exalted in Cancer, positioned very well in your natal 10th house, where the doors can easily open if you walk through them, and be prepared to fight the good fight when you have to put your stake in your chosen career arena. Okay, let's get into the planets in transit. So your chart ruler Venus on the 4th of July is coming towards the end of her transit in that natal 8th house that we talked about at the opening of the video. And on the 4th, we have Venus conjuncting Uranus, then Venus ingressing into Gemini, and Neptune beginning its retrograde in Aries. So we have 3 astrological separate events that we'll talk about individually here. But before we do that, I'd like to say to all my US listeners out there, wishing you a happy 4th of July. I hope you have a fantastic day of celebration. Okay. So when your chart ruler sneaks up, so your chart ruler, you're getting closer and closer and closer, if you will, to Uranus. And Uranus is like that catapult that shoots us into the stratosphere. So you've been preparing for quite some time, I would surmise, Libra rising signs, for that official leg up regarding anything to do with shared finances, a path forward that's going to take you in a new direction that improves your sense of self. And dealing with any official paperwork is certainly going to come to a screeching halt now when your chart ruler Venus conjuncts Uranus on the 4th of July. Something is dead and done, and that shoots you into a new pathway moving forward. So you should be feeling pretty good within your skin, mind, body, spirit, and soul, and especially with your part in regards to shared finances moving forward. I really like that for you. Then your chart ruler Venus will then ingress into your natal 9th house of Gemini. This trines your first house, so this is fantastic until the 30th of July before Venus ingresses into the 10th house. So this is an important transit for you, Libra rising, when your chart ruler Venus is in Gemini in your 9th house. I'm going to give you the lay of the land here. Now, Gemini is a zodiac sign that loves variety, diversity. The more options, the more paths to choose from, the more excited Gemini gets. The problem with that in your natal 9th house of travel, foreigners, foreign places, higher education, your spiritual beliefs and practices in your life, you are on notice to try to pick a lane. It's going to be very stimulating for you with all the absolute spice and variety of life with this transit. It may be a little bit too much, actually, for the Libra rising signs with this transit. When you've got all this intel and all these doors open to step into the world at large with your mind, body, spirit, and soul. So, how I would practically work with this transit Libra rising signs when Venus is in that very excitable zodiac sign of Gemini in your natal 9th house, pick 1 or 2 options when it comes to making plans for your future, because your chart ruler is moving quickly into your natal 10th house of work. And that means whatever you engage with now, just be half in and half out, and don't overcommit to anything long term, because Venus and Gemini can lose steam in interest. So when it comes to those big lofty travel deals or higher courses or a new spiritual practice, it can be a bit overwhelming with Venus transit in Gemini. So, forewarned, it's forearmed, Libra rising sun, CGU. But if you are ready to commit and engage, then make it as singular as you can because it can be very convoluted with Gemini in your natal ninth house from the 4th of July to the 30th of July. Okay, and now Neptune goes into a retrograde in Aries in your natal seventh house at 2 degrees. I'm not too concerned about this astrologically. Neptune hasn't been in Aries long enough to make a serious impact in your seventh house of relationships. The only thing that I could probably suggest is any relationships or new connections that you've engaged with since the 30th of June 2025. You'll start to see the forest with the trees, how things are working out with this union or how you can step away from them. That would be the only thing I can think about because Neptune hasn't been here long enough to make a serious impact for all of us. But he does go into a retrograde in Aries in your natal seventh house of relationships at 2 degrees. On the 7th, we do have a newsworthy day. We have your chart ruler Venus sextiling Saturn and retrograde Neptune and trining retrograde Pluto. Now, all I can say about this whole combination of all these sextiles and trines is that the 7th of July is the day where you can cruise. Nothing's too much of a push. It'd be a great day to plan something like a fun event, go out to dinner, or just chill with those nearest and dearest to you. The 7th of July just looks like a very harmonious. Nothing's too much of a push on this day with your chart ruler having some really nice aspects to the outer planets and Saturn. But the standout news of the 7th of July is Uranus ingressing into Gemini, your natal ninth house. I'm not going to labor too much on this. I will be uploading a separate video about Uranus transit in Gemini. So, again, if you haven't subscribed and you haven't hit the bell notification button, do so and you'll get notified when I upload that video. Because Uranus is going to be retrograding back into your natal eighth house and going back into your natal ninth house next year in April permanently for like 7 and a bit years. So this is like a soft opening, like an open doorway. Something's here for the taking, if you will, when Uranus ingresses into Gemini, your ninth house on the 7th of July. But it may be almost like a teething process you're going through here. Okay, so let's talk about this. Well, with the ninth house we've been talking about, which is higher education, long distance travel, traveling, foreigners and foreign places, spirituality, religion. It's the house of faith and belief, the ninth house, and that's Gemini. And that may be an imprint of yours being in your ninth house as a Libra rising sign that there are many different dualities regarding those topics and subjects of religion and faith and relationships and education and foreigners and foreign places and travel. You may have a very broad mind about these topics and subjects, which bodes well for you. It's an air sign, so very movable and fluid. But, what I do like about Uranus ingressing into Gemini is that Uranus will break a mold. Uranus will um, be a very fortunate transit for all of us in Gemini because Uranus in Taurus, that fixed Earth zodiac sign, is hard to move. Like it's fighting against change. Whereas Gemini is more open and fluid. It's a flexible, adaptable zodiac sign, Gemini. It's very youthful and it's got that mutability, which bodes well for just, flexing and changing on a dime as needed. But in that ninth house of faith and religion and travel and foreigners and foreign places and higher education, it can get a little bit chaotic and a little bit raw with Gemini in the ninth house when we're trying to pick a lane, but there's too much stimulation. So what Uranus is going to help all of us do in Gemini is potentially bulldoze through the distraction and help us pick a lane. Now, your chart ruler Venus is also here with Uranus at least until the 30th of July. So this will be important for you as a Libra rising. So when Uranus does get into your ninth house with your chart ruler Venus. So this will be significant astrological news about me talking about this transit for you. Okay, so Uranus is the great awakener. He's the liberator. He wants freedom. He's odd. He's acute and he's swift. sharp as a tack. That's Uranus. And in sharp, flexible, adaptable Gemini, I mean, like it's got juggling all balls and all the air all at once. These two together, Gemini and Uranus, are going to be really, really quite clever and quick-witted, and a lot of sharp, quick change. But it's in that ninth house. And this is where I think it becomes a little bit nuanced for you as a Libra rising sign. So think of the ninth house being in sleepwalking mode for 84 years. Uranus hasn't been in Gemini for 84 years. So that ninth house of yours has been sleeping. And Uranus's function is to come in and wake it up. It's that slap in the mouth that you barely see coming around the corner, but it shocks you into a new awareness. And when you are awake and the filters are off and you can see clearly, then the paths boards, the paths that are encouraging you to move forward are easy to see, the forest for the trees, on where you should direct and engage in a streamlined, structured way when it comes to those nice ninth house topics and subjects. So this bodes well for quick thinking, diverse ways of opening up your mind, body, spirit, and soul. And if you think of religion and practices that have a lot to do with faith and belief and knocking shoulders with different people, places, and faces, then Uranus is going to almost, with this transit in Gemini in your ninth house, with your chart ruler Venus here till the 30th of July, is certainly going to be peeling back the veil, and all of a sudden you will see the merit, the ripe potential, if you will, to engage and step in where angels fear to tread and change things for yourself. So this is quite an optimistic transit with Uranus and Gemini, but that Gemini part of the ninth house needs a blank slate, and that's what Uranus is here to do. It's sort of cutting through all the fog that's been here for 84 years and opening potentials up where you can tune in psychically, mentally, to opening up to new terrains, new uncharted waters, when your local planet becomes almost small and you want to extend further into the solar system. It's that sort of transit where you can tune into esotericism, occultism, anything divinatory might really tick your boxes with this transit with Uranus and Gemini in your ninth house, where you're taking the mind into new vista. So, a very interesting transit coming up for you with Uranus in Gemini in your natal ninth house from the 7th of July moving forward. So, yes, again, I will do a separate video about this, but this bodes well for the Libra rising signs. Number one, you've got Venus here, so you're certainly able to gauge and feeling in what the distractions are, what's too many distractions, so you'll be able to streamline a lot better. I certainly hope so anyway, to pick a lane that is a right fit for you. And that ninth house trining your first house bodes well for you engaging and starting something new and fresh. That certainly opens up your mind, body, spirit, and soul. Really quite optimistic, uplifting transit when Uranus steps into Gemini, into your natal ninth house from the 7th of July. Enjoy it. Feel free to leave any comments in the comments section below about your expectations or thoughts on this transit. I love interacting with my audience. Okay, and moving on to the 10th. So we know your chart ruler is still in that ninth house, zooming through that ninth house now with Uranus. So there will be a lot of mental exacerbation. So make sure you ground yourself, drink some green tea. Make sure you're getting good food in your belly so you don't get hangry. Just keep it all very tempered as much as you can, because things are about to escalate for you, Libra rising. And that's okay, but we need to keep our feet on the ground as well. All right, enough of the mothering. On the 10th of July, we have our first lunation of the month, and it's a full moon in Capricorn at 18 degrees. So this full moon's lighting up your fourth house, this natal part of your chart, which is an angular part of your natal chart, no less. So you've got Jupiter exalted in Cancer in your natal 10th house. You've got the sun in your natal 10th house. The sun is also in Cancer. So both Cancer and the sun are opposing this full moon in your natal 4th house. So let's talk about this. Well, we think of the moon, we think of something's ripe for the taking. We see something, we acknowledge something, and whether it's for better or worse, it's hard to ignore the realities when we're talking about accepting or at feeling an emotion that needs its moment to be processed and acknowledged. So on the 10th of July, what I'm getting for you with the full moon in your natal 4th house is I'm thinking with the ruler Saturn in your natal 7th house with Neptune, your house of relationships. I'm wondering if there is a bit of a tug of war about where home is, or you trying to physically get into the groove in an environment, getting more into an organic relationship with your body, and how relationships in your life make you feel. We're talking about feelings here, the moon. So I'm wondering if there's something about the home, the body, relationships on the 10th of July that has you all up in it, that needs some careful, very deliberate conversation or acknowledgement. So it can be a day on the 10th of July where you're very aware, if you will, of your surroundings in your environment and how your body is responding in kind, and the relationships in your life of any nature, how they are reflecting back to you in supportive ways, or if you need a bit of time out for yourself on the 10th of July to think. So that's how I see this full moon in Capricorn for you as a Libra rising sign on the 10th of July. On the 13th, this is another great day for easy flow. So if you're planning ahead and you follow the planets in transits, the 13th of July is another day of cruising. We have Saturn now beginning its retrograde in your natal 7th house of Aries, joining retrograde Neptune now. Again, I don't think this is seriously newsworthy. Saturn hasn't been in the 7th house of Aries long enough to have a massive impact. Retrograding at 1 degrees. The only thing I can think astrologically about this is that maybe you're starting to see the work that's necessary regarding having strong support systems around you with relationships. So you'll be maybe considering the longevity of relationships, the significance of these relationships in your life of any nature and how they support you or don't. So that's all I'm getting, because like I said, Saturn hasn't been long enough in Aries to have a massive, massive impact. Not from my astrological perspective anyway. So nothing newsworthy there. And with all these trines and sextiles, we've got retrograde Saturn and retrograde Neptune, sextiling retrograde Pluto, Uranus and Gemini, trining retrograde Pluto and Aquarius, trining retrograde Saturn and retrograde Neptune. You get the picture. We've all got these outer planets and Saturn all speaking in harmony and flow from your house of relationships and pleasure and fun. So the 13th of July is just cruising day. Okay, on the 18th, we now have Mercury going into a retrograde. This is Mercury's second retrograde of the year. So Mercury would begin its retrograde in Leo in your natal 11th house at 15 degrees, and it won't go direct until August 11 next month at 4 degrees. So when Mercury is retrograding in your natal 11th house of Leo, um, yeah, this could be seeing where you've been investing with your social circles, people that help you and benefit you regarding your career, your dreams and aspirations. You're sort of seeing the fruits of your labor when Mercury goes into a retrograde until August 11. So anything that you've been proactively engaging with regarding dreaming big, laying out plans for your future and your goals, trying to muster up allies and supports and beneficiaries for your career and friends and social networks. So you're just seeing how things have been playing out. And also with Mercury in retrograde in Leo, your friendships may be Also reducing their activities. So not you reducing activity with your friends, but your friends and social circles might be taking a back step or just slowing down as well when Mercury is retrograding in your natal 11th house. Not too much of an astrological drama with this retrograde period at all for you. And also on the 18th, we've got Mercury sextiling your chart ruler Venus. So this again, sextiles are harmonious, easy flowing aspects. So nothing's too much of a stretch on the 18th of July when it comes to making a social commitment or writing down, putting pen to paper about your dreams and goals for the future on the 18th of July. On the 22nd, we see the Sun now ingress into your natal 11th house, adjoining retrograde Mercury. And the Sun will be in Leo, its sign of domicile. We've got a very happy Sun until the 22nd of August. So 4 weeks, your natal 11th house is becoming focused. And we talked about this natal 11th house, but we'll get into it more. But when the Sun is in a commanding position, which it is in domicile in Leo, then any friends, alliances, social circles, or connections are certainly going to be showing you and taking you by the hand, sort of giving you the tools and the ropes, showing you the ropes on how you can expand your reach regarding your lofty dreams and goals. So this is a beneficial transit to connect with movers and shakers in your professional industry. It's also fantastic for getting support systems in place in regards to you saying, this is what my plans are for the future, and just have people come along for the ride, whether that means getting them to check in on you every now and then or just being more aware of you're going through something quite transformative and you're going to need their leg up every now and then. So it's that sort of transit which is bodes well for you. And when that Sun is in flamboyant Leo, you also may see a lot more attraction to activities like concerts, loving on your body, making opulent purchase on your body or with jewelry, improving your appearance. And your friends might be more than happy to book that appointment to the day spa with this transit. So it's quite fun, really, when the Sun is in your natal 11th house, being Leo, from the 22nd of July to the 22nd of August. So again, if you work with planets and transits and you want to know when's the right time to plan events, get out and enjoy life, it would be from the 22nd of July to the 22nd of August. Okay. We also have on the 22nd the Sun sextiling Uranus. Okay. So what I like about this is because it's again, this is an easy, harmonious aspect. So the Sun leadership shining bright in your natal house of friends, alliances, and your dreams and goals, connecting with the house of faith and belief and expansion. You might be a bit prone to taking an acute action on putting your money where your mouth is on the 22nd of July when the Sun sextiles planet Uranus in your natal ninth. On the 24th, we have, this is a big day astrologically, we've got the Sun trining retrograde Saturn and retrograde Neptune, the Sun opposing retrograde Pluto, your chart ruler Venus squaring Mars, and a new moon in Leo at 2 degrees, lighting up at a natal 11th house. A lot going on. Not too worried about the Sun trining Neptune and retrograde Saturn. That's nothing really to write home about there, other than things are good for relationships and social outings. But your chart ruler is having a direct hit, a direct square from Mars on the 24th. So this could be just like a clash of the titans sort of day when we're talking about being um, half in and half out with expanding your reach or proactively engaging with the world at large on this day. This could be stage fright or not too sure about your direction, and that's okay. But it can be grating on your finances and your relationships about indecision or not being confident. So if you're not confident, then you don't need to say anything because it could really start playing on your mind. You really start getting in a battle in your mind is what I'm getting on the 24th. So easy does it when your chart ruler Venus squares off with Mars. And It's nothing you can't handle, liberalizing, really. And the last thing on the 24th is, yes, that new moon in Leo at 2 degrees in your natal 11th house. Yeah, so this could be a new group, a new tribe that you're hanging out with, beginning an emotional investment with a friend or an ally that helps you professionally on the 24th of July. Bodes well for your social house to get an upgrade where you feel emotionally in the right space with your heart and your soul. Just looks beautiful on the 24th. If you're ready to engage and start something that is about your future, especially with your career or your public identity, this would be the day to do it on the 24th of July. On the 30th, we have your chart ruler Venus now ingress into Cancer, your natal 10th house, till the 25th of August. So your chart ruler Venus is joining Jupiter exalted in Cancer. This should be a pretty flowy transit for you as a Libra rising sign with Venus in the natal 10th house to the 25th of July with exalted Jupiter. So let's talk about this. So we've got the two benefics. So the benefic planets of our solar system is your chart ruler Venus and Jupiter. And when the two benefics are working in unison, really close together, we're talking about two planets that have really big ideas about where the juice is, where's the life. And so it would be extremely, I don't know, dumb luck if you do not get opportunities to advance with your career, your public image, sort out anything official with this transit, or get a personal achievement up and running with these two guys working in your natal 10th house of Cancer. It really does bode well for pregnancy as well, and really fortuitous for anything to do with mothers from the 30th of July to the 25th of August. All in all, your chart ruler Venus is cruising in that natal 10th house where you can start something new with your mind, body, spirit, and soul. Whatever it is, you can feel confident about stepping into new shoes with this transit. So enjoy being in the spotlight, enjoy harmony and flow with people that you knock shoulders with in your professional space, and just enjoy whistling while you work, because your chart ruler Venus is the natal 10th with jolly Jupiter just bodes well for just feeling out and acknowledging that, wherever your heart's desire is regarding what you want to project on the world stage, whatever that is, Jupiter's going to give you the optimism to step out and be seen and recognized and go for it. So really quite abundant, optimistic transit with Venus, your chart ruler with jolly Jupiter in Cancer in your natal 10th house from the 30th of July to the 25th of August. Absolutely stunning astrology. We will take it as above, so below. Okay, so the last day of the month, we have the Sun conjunct retrograde Mercury. Not too phased about this, happening in your natal 11th house. Yeah, this could just be a surprising conversation with a friend or a professional associate. Nothing too severe on the 31st of July. Okay, so the last day of the month, we have the Sun conjunct retrograde Mercury. Not too phased about this, happening in your natal 11th house. Yeah, this could just be a surprising conversation with a friend or a professional associate. Nothing too severe on the 31st of July. That's your astrology for the month. I hope you have a fabulous one. Again, if you haven't listened to the Jupiter Transit Cancer for the Libra rising signs, it's on my YouTube channel. You'll get a wealth of astrological information there about this transit, because it's such a long transit. Jupiter will be in your natal 10th house of Cancer till the 30th of June 2026. It's a really long time where this is going to be rolling out. But the astrology for the month of July is extremely good. Nothing too severe going on with the planets in retrograde for you as a Libra rising sign. So enjoy the month. Until next time, stay cosmic.